I boy for New York Times. I deliver New York Times. So I have a chance to read New York Times every day. I will read through the pages of New York Times every day to see if there's any news about China. Back in 1990s, there weren't that much. What little I did find, the China that painted in New York Times is totally different from the China I know. Around 2000, this is when I already started working. I graduated college and started working. So I found this online blog started by a bunch of American expat in Moscow called Exile. One of them is started by Matt Taibbi. Now he's mainstream. He later worked for Rolling Stone and then, got famous because Elon Musk handed over the Twitter file. But before he hit the big time, he was actually doing a lot of exposés on how mainstream media construct narratives about other countries. In his case, about post-Soviet Russia. He was saying, look, most of the stories, there's a template. And that's why I realized, okay, it's not a matter of the Western journalists didn't understand China or didn't understand Russia. This is a real constructed narrative. And that made me look at Western reporting on China differently. But I follow the same people who started that blog, the Exile blog. One of them started their own podcast called Radio Warner. So I recommended myself, and I added comments. Okay, I saw that you're about to do an episode on Kaiping Rebellion. Can I come to your show? And he really liked what I had to say. So he invited me to do that podcast with him. So I built a little bit notoriety, because he will keep on inviting me back whenever he talked about Chinese history, and I consider myself still connected to the Chinese world, at least share from a Chinese perspective. So that's why I started my podcast, Silk and Steel podcast. Later, I migrated also to YouTube. I think there's a real hunger for real information about China. People are looking toward alternative media right now. I guess I just happen to be at the right place at the right time.
Carl's niche is geopolitical and a historical topic. So I think it's a good choice to take him to Jianchuan Museum to visit. The prototype of this place used to be an armory in Hanyang, which is Wuhan. Due to the war, it kind of relocated to Chongqing.
Right, Wuhan was occupied, so all the factories are now moved to Chongqing. At that time, China thought maybe it faced World War III with both Soviet Union and United States. So a lot of the coastal factories were relocated here. And of course, a lot of the arms factories were already located here during World War II because of the war with Japan. So based upon that foundation, they built even more arms and munition factories, and this would remain the case until early 80s when the open reform period started, and that's when a lot of these formerly arms factory converted to civilian use. And one of the famous successful example was the Changan Automobile industry. They went from making tanks and artillery to make motorcycles, and later to make cars. And now they're exporting cars all over the world, Southeast Asia and Australia. Here at this place, I feel like I'm walking into a time capsule. And a lot of this period, I myself actually have experienced because I was born in 1976. So I'm quite familiar what China was like, particularly what Chongqing was like back in the 1980s. The beginning part of the tour, where they show the history of this place, that really, in a lot of ways, it encapsulates the modernization of China. Right now, we're inside an old anti-air raid shelter that was built initially for defense against the Japanese terror bombing during World War II, and then it was used as a shelter for making the weapons to fight the Japanese. And once we emerge out of this cave, we're coming out into the modern Chongqing, the cyberpunk city. So there's a huge contrast. You're walking out of the time capsule now. I think it's very important, especially for posterity, for the younger generation, to know this history, how far China has come. For people who grow up today, like in the 2020s, they are born into a time when China is already prosperous and strong, and they may not have realized, how far China has come. And I think it's good to gain the appreciation of history, to appreciate the present. Yeah, he agrees.
We've seen the past, now we see the future. This is a Raffles City observation deck. I think this is a great place for Carl to review his hometown.
That's the Chongqing port. I still remember it from 1980s when I took a river cruise with my auntie, and I still remember very steep stairs going down. Back in the 1980s, all these buildings weren't here. None of these, almost everything you see right now was built in.
A lot of bridges?
No bridges. There were no bridges. And so everything you see right now, this view, is built in the last 35 years. And that's very impressive. Now you can see very clearly the junction between the Yangtze River and Jialing River, because the Yangtze River is very muddy. It carries a lot of silt from upstream. And Jialing River is green because Jialing River, it's very fast flowing river, so there's not much sediment by the time it comes here. So it's quite amazing.
This will appear some special season, because this is actually my first time to see those two rivers at some different holiday.
Because there's a high water season and low water season, right? I think we're kind of at the tail end of the high water season, because there's more water. You do have a lot of Yangtze River carry a lot of water and carry a lot of silt from upstream. So this is man. Before I only see this in the picture, like from the bird's eye view, and now I can see it for myself.
So I have one last question today. So this question is, a city like Chongqing, which has a very abundant history and rapid development, what's the image of Chongqing of the world?
Well, I mean, right now, Chongqing actually have a very positive image brought. They see titles like the Cyberpunk city. Now, Cyberpunk originally is actually associated with futuristic but dystopia. And Chongqing is not a dystopia. It's a very nice, clean city. Now, many people think of modern China. They think the night view of Chongqing when all the buildings are light up. Yeah, I highly recommend anybody to come visit Chongqing, see for yourself, and you'll be amazed as well.